glitch. He texted me back, said he's doing media. He'll try to get in here.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome. That's great.
Can I
Go ahead. No, Philip's turn. I call him
earlier were...
I call him Philip. I don't know if you can't hear me, Emily. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, well, sorry about that, Chad. All you ever do is scold me. I mean, you go to my page, you scold
Let's not make this a personal beef between two people. It has nothing to do with the topic.
But yeah, okay, yeah, I'll move on.
That sounds hard.
So, yeah. So the issue I have with all of this is people are still going to be telling us how we have to feel about this. They're going to be telling us how we have to react to this. No, we're done with that. If you're one of the people who said, oh, it's only been 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, shut the fuck up. If you're one of the people who said, trust Dan Bongino.
Stop swearing, bro. I'm not going to tell you again.
You're wrong the entire time. Okay, I'm sorry. Why is there a rule against
Because there's people complaining. My listeners are complaining.
Daytime TV, it's...
My listeners are complaining about the swear words. They're around their kids. They're with their families. Okay, and they get precedence over the speakers. That's why. Okay, so, please just adhere to what I'm asking you.
It's summer break for the kids. They're home.
All right. Okay, I got it. And, they're going to be telling us how we have to react, how we have to feel about it. And honestly, I'm tired about that. I'm tired of being told that how I have to feel. I know what's right and what's wrong. I feel really bad about this. I know it's terrible. And people are saying, oh, no, good things were done. No, that does not matter, guys. We were promised that there was going to be transparency. There was going to be arrest. All these files would be released in length, in detail. And what they do, they say, oh, it no longer exists. There's no way around this. They screwed us over. This is something that I cannot overlook. And if you're telling people, oh, well, you shouldn't feel this way, you're insane. I'm sorry, you are just insane. You're the same people who are telling us to trust the plan the entire time. The same people are calling us fake MAGA and traitors, putting pressure on them and saying, no, you need to get on this. You need to arrest the deep state criminals. You need to release the files. No more excuses. No more moving the deadlines. I mean, I've seen others and also myself get attacked over and over for this. And that's what happens. You're part of the trust the plan cult. This is what you get. Astronomical magnitude of humiliation and betrayal. So congratulations. This is what we got for that. I'm hoping everyone learns a valuable lesson from this, realizes you cannot trust the government. It's not just some little fun thing we say. No, you literally can never trust the government, and you have to put pressure on them to do the right thing and to get back on the right track. So, as it goes with MAGA, I was hoping this would be like an America First movement, not just, follow one man to hell or follow one man into this shit show. I'm hoping that, now we can actually fight for things we believe in and not just say, okay, we're just going to trust whatever direction they go in, because Donald Trump, this made it clear that he supports what the FBI and the DOJ did. That he supports them not releasing the files, not arresting anyone, not giving a check, what. So I have a problem with that. I'm not willing to follow a man who does that stuff. I'm going to cheer for him who does the right thing, but right now I'm no longer a supporter. I mean, I was already on the fence, but now I'm done. Unless it gives us real mass deportations, this administration is a joke. Just full on a joke. I don't trust him at all.
You're allowed to feel that way. Thank you, Philip. Go ahead, Michelle. You've been waiting patiently. Sorry about that.
Hey, that's no problem. Thanks, Diligent. It's been a while since I've been in a space, but this has been great. I've really enjoyed listening, and I love your passion for this issue. I was sitting here thinking as I was listening the last hour or so about what a convergence we live in this time right now, where there are people, and I so appreciate you for this, who will just stand for truth alone, let it stand alone, not get into parties. And this is what I think. I believe in America. I believe in the experiment. I believe in the Constitution. I don't think in terms of having to burn it all down, but I do wholeheartedly agree with Dustin that this has to come outside. It has to be pressure put on outside of either party or voting our way into or out of this. I'm from Omaha. I live in Kansas City now. So I really I did a deep dive about 15 years ago on the Franklin cover-up. And I often think of what it would have been like had we had the access to social media and getting the word out and doing research had it been at that time. Did you know that King, the guy, the kingpin of that, He never served more than 10 years. They only got him on financial charges, never anything sex or sex trafficking. And he probably ended up in DC. Nobody even knew where he went. So this is decades of getting away with these degenerate, reprobate sexual deviancy that has harmed children and has, led to, many deaths and sexual exploitation and devastation in our society and around the world. And I think that this is exactly what we need. I don't know where things are going to go from here, but I do think that this is the way to do it, is to keep the pressure on. And somehow, even though we don't see the, what's going to be the way that this is going to, how is this going to remedy? It doesn't even matter if we know the way or not right now. We have to keep putting on the pressure. And hey, I'm an Andrew Bailey guy. I think really he should have been the one instead of Bondi. He's a military he's an operational guy, and I really hope we can get somebody in there for AG like that. I think that these AGs, these prosecutors, should get full protection. I think their families should be protected. I think it should be just like security detail. I think that they definitely need to be brought to justice within the justice system, but it has to be so these people who are prosecuting, I know their life, I'm sure their lives are getting threatened, I'm sure their families are, but this is, I never got into the Q movement, but thank goodness for the whole cabal thing and all the videos, and we know this cabal of sexual deviants that have preyed upon. It's fueled the abortion industry. It's fueled the, it's just awful. And I'm really thankful, Diligent, that you're here. I've enjoyed listening to everybody. Millie, Chad, all of you guys. Dustin, thanks, guys.
The Attorney General does have a security detail.
Yeah, we know that they all do. All the cabinet members do. Go ahead, Virgin.
Hey, appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of riff a little bit on what some others were saying, Dustin in particular. And I think that there's kind of if you just kind of take a step back here and just look at reality and politics such as it is, and most of us have been in this sphere and commenting on this for the last few years. And I think there is an underlying, I always listen to, there's the people that are, delusionally optimistic. Oh yeah, Trump's going to give us everything. He's going to lead us into battle like Genghis Khan, and we're going to take everything back. And then there's the doomers that are like, Trump is just a psyop to make us think that he's, he's just a psyop for the deep state so that we think we're going to get stuff and we're not going to get anything. And I think the answer inevitably is somewhere in the middle, because politics is inevitably the art of you're trying to negotiate between the base and the supporters who elected you, and the voting blocks that put you in office, and the entrenched interests that, to one degree or another, are also their key supporters, right? And I think that what this reveals is, I don't think it means Trump is in on it. I think what it reveals is that the blackmail ring, the Epstein client list, what it reveals is that they are, at least for now, an entrenched enough interest that Trump either is not prepared to deal with that, or he does not believe he can at this time. And, it might be something that I think that's a very difficult pill to swallow, but I think at a bare minimum, that's what everybody should be. It's a bitter pill, but that's what everybody should be swallowing at this point. I don't think that means that we're not going to get anything we want, and I do think Trump is still going to make progress on some of the issues that he has been working on, but I think that's the reality.
Also, how humiliating this is. Everyone who voted for Donald Trump and this happens, it's humiliating. And it's just not right to do this to his own voter.
Yeah, I would.
I don't see.
How do you think the Democrat fundraising efforts are going right now? I bet you they're going pretty well.
I'm not denying that this is the blackest thing. I don't think it means voting for Trump over Kamala Harris is humiliating. Frankly,
I don't regret my vote.
I think that's a ridiculous politic.
I also,
And to be clear, the Democrats are not any better. Just to be clear on that, the Democrats they could have released it for 4 years.
Yeah, they're also in on it.
Even tried to
Well, yeah,
attempted
and if
to even
you-
call for it. But
if you wanna talk about-
the fact that our side went out of their way and said, "Hey, we got truckloads. Hey, it's on the desk. Hey, we're gonna release the files. Hey, these influencers stand in front of the White House and hold these binders to the entire world." I mean, why in the world would you do that if you're not gonna release it? My God, that was just not very smart.
What happened
That
to
was
the
just
200 files of the SDNY that they wouldn't turn over?
oh yeah, I remember at one point they said that was the reason. Oh, the real files are up there in New York, and then they had them all shipped down. Then we never heard another word about it.
See, this is what's so confusing, and I just want to clarify what you guys are really touching on here. Because we have this synopsis that there's no client list. We have this synopsis that he wasn't, I guess, blackmailing people and that he didn't kill himself. That's the truth that the government wants us to accept. But even according to their own claims, I mean, that doesn't mean that there wasn't trafficking of thousands of children. And so, you know, we heard Pam Bondi telling us explicitly that they have to go through all the videos and try and carve out the parts that were protecting the victims and things of that nature. So why didn't you drop this while also indicting hundreds of people? Assuming that they're not big name people, for whatever reason, he's feeling a fetish to, but they won't accept the government story. Why would you not be indicting hundreds of people who are on those tapes? Like, none of this makes any sense at all. Even if you want to try and believe them, and it's almost offensive that they think the public is so stupid, or they don't realize how much this is going to blow up in their face. It's like, how dumb do you think we are, or how tolerant are we? Or how much of a sheep follower type of thing do you think that we are? That, oh, okay, this is what we said, we're going to go along. It's insulting.
Or how little choice do they actually have? And again, this is why I just encourage everybody. Think about the local prosecutors through the entire process. Local prosecutors and their staff, state prosecutors and their staff, different administrations, different FBI and their staff. I mean, you're talking about, in order to just keep the lid on this thing to this degree, an almost insane level. And if you have if they have the power to prevent this information from coming out, then what else are our electeds, like the people that are supposed to be in control, what else do they not have control of? What else can they be leveraged to go against? It obviously, the announcement is so ridiculous. We have client lists, right? Like we know Prince Andrew is implicated in this. We know a lot of the people who regularly attend the island. Like, the idea that there was no client list and no one was blackmailed is so silly that who has the power to make somebody say something so ridiculous and obvious at the highest level? And how are we supposed to do anything if Trump and that team in particular is forced to toe that line? I think it's something we really got to consider.
Well, and I'm not worth anywhere near what Epstein was worth, okay? But if you come to my house, you're going to pop up on my Ring doorbell. If you walk out back, you're going to be on camera when I let my dog Margaret out, you know, under the night lights to go take a pee. Like, there's cameras everywhere in my house. Like, if you're under the impression, again, to own a private island, to be hanging out with the most influential people on the planet, that there are cameras everywhere. Like, the list written down by Epstein in a little black book is totally effing irrelevant, okay? We know exactly who these people are. Just show us the Ring doorbell footage. I mean, at a minimum, you know, like, you don't have to release the actual sex acts with children, blah, 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 the way Caroline said it today, which was just so
Or just tell us the names.
I'm sure
Just
the
come on,
Dolphins
man.
are
Don't even come at me. Don't even come at me with that. Don't even come at me with that. That, oh, you can't really, like, I'm not asking for actual footage of Andrew, behind someone in a, villa somewhere. I'm just asking for the evidence that that person was in there and you got Andrew walking through the front door. And to say that that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Or that
there were cameras over the main doorway and the side entrance.
I mean, dude, there can be cameras everywhere, Diligent. Like, come on now. Like,
The cameras on the
every
corner from the
motorcycle
city of New York.
I have a couple of big guests coming in shortly, so do me a favor, you guys. Bottom right corner, repost the space. I want to go to some of these people with their hands up, and then we'll open it back up. Jennifer, did you have someone with your hands up? I don't know. Is it not up?
you can drop me for space if you want to, Dill, whenever you need to. Just
Well,
drop
I'm
me.
Whenever you're done talking, you can drop yourself. You're doing all right.
I'm just wondering why Prince Andrew would settle with Virginia Giuffre for what, $5 million? Or was it more? If like, there was no, fire where there was smoke. It just seems weird
Yeah,
that you
she's
would
dead.
settle with someone. Yeah, and she's dead. But look
Yeah.
at how many, like
Yeah,
I
she got hit
pointed
by
out
a bus,
before.
man. That didn't work. She
No,
shot herself, right?
yeah, but listen, the point is that all of the people who have been associated with Jeffrey Epstein, including Epstein, are now mysteriously dead. Right? John, Luke, whatever the hell his name is, Virginia, Jeffrey, there's a whole list of them. There was a New York Post article that they did. So why are all these people dying, and why are they settling out of court if there's nothing that the American people need to know?
Hey, Diligent, I'm about to have to leave, but I just want to ask one question before I go, if that's
Go for it, bro.
Yeah, I guess it's a question for everyone. I really don't have I really don't have it in my heart to be stained by this, like for the next 5 or 10 years or forever long. So, are we just going to accept this, or are we going to do something about it?
What can we do, Phil?
What's the plan exactly?
That's the
The
question.
first step is not accepting it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I certainly appreciate you guys letting me come up and just share some thoughts. I really felt the need to vent. Hope I'm not jumping line here. But, this isn't a red or blue issue. This isn't a Democrat, Republican issue. This is a basic human goodness versus evil issue. These thousands of children that were trafficked. What's sad is there's no justice for them on this side of the grave. It looks like this has all been swept under the rug. What it really does make you feel like is you do feel powerless. And you do wonder what can be done, right? I mean, we thought that having our voices heard at the ballot box would make a difference. But when there's evidently this kind of power that's not elected by the people and for the people, it really does push you towards either resigning to the fact that this constitutional republic is done, or it pushes you to the other extreme, which I won't mention, out of fear that someone might come visit me. But that's the sadness of it. Your heart just breaks for the thousands of victims and the witnesses that have been silenced by their own death. And you do wonder what you can do. And I think it's very frustrating when we see that really they're all a part of one big club and we're not a part of that. So then the question is a third-party approach the right approach? Well, I'm 45 and I've seen some of those third-party approaches over the years. I would say that with the tools that we have today, there might be that opportunity to really organize. I don't know, but I'm just very heartbroken today.
Well, quick question, Sugar.
Yeah.
Instead of having the third party run the general election,
Right.
might be a way to have our third party run in the primary, in the Republican primary. That way we can actually get our own hand-picked people to run the primaries.
No.
That's not even possible.
No.
And you can't run in a primary for a party that you're not part of.
I think what we have to do is we have to limit the terms on some level. We have to call a constitutional convention of the states, if that's even possible.
Oh my God, hell no. You are not opening up the Constitution with the very idiots that are fucking us. Sorry.
No. We're not going to turn this. We're not going to turn this into an America party shilling faction. We're also not going to turn this into a convention of the states. It's already been declared, even by you, Dustin, that there's no way to vote your way out of this. It's all made on that premise.
I would like to propose some real things that I think need to be done.
Okay, what's the solution?
It's not a fit.
Mute your mic, sugar. Thank you.
There is no magic silver bullet, don't get me wrong. However, we need to push the Overton's window. You need to demand that there are candidates that call for wholesale Bukele-style jailing of government officials at every level. We have to push what is mainstream and acceptable by moving the Overton's window and demanding extreme judicial and legal and criminal action against all kinds of people. And I think we started that a little bit, which is why we're so upset that we sent people in that we thought were going to do it. Our job is now to quadruple down on our demands of what any candidate says as far as how far they're willing to go and how many people they're willing to arrest in order to clean the system out. Like, we have to push the Overton's window.
If not a party, then maybe, Dustin, like we discussed earlier, maybe we could start like some type of group that, like an unofficial party, but like within the Republican Party that we can have run against.
Oh, like MAGA?
You mean like MAGA?
No, guys. Donald Trump has endorsed a bunch of people that were bad. All right, so I wouldn't say quite like that. Different. Like we ourselves, we would choose them. We would actually have control over it. Something different. Why not try it? What do we have to lose?
How are you going to have control if you're not in an organized party?
Okay, I have a solution to present. So a lot of times, if you want to hurt the politicians the most because you're pissed off at them, you got to do it with your wallet, okay? These guys are always calling up asking for money. All these candidates are asking for money. The Republican Party asks for money, and then they sprinkle it around to the candidates that they choose. That system screws us every time. We need to, we could have like a PAC or something that vets and selects like good, actual patriotic candidates that we know aren't freaking bought off. And then they could endorse them and they could fundraise to that PAC or something and then get behind those candidates individually. Or if you don't want to do it that way, you could just find the candidates individually and donate directly to them. But if you cut off the money supply to some of these other politicians and parties, that's going to hurt them the most. That's why I always say vote with your wallet.
Yeah, I got to go. Diligent, thanks again for having me. And I really do think we should be willing to think outside the box on this, guys. I mean, seriously, isn't that how a lot of changes are made? Thinking outside the box, trying something a little bit different. I mean, if we fail, we fail. If we keep doing the same thing we do again and again, then we're definitely going to fail, right? So why not try something a little bit new? Because I really don't want anything like this to happen again, guys.
I think outside of the box is the only way that we're going to be able to fix it, to be honest with you. Obviously, the levers and mechanisms within the system that we have available do not work. I think we can kind of...
Yeah, when people don't do anything.
Yeah, I think we
Come on,
can...
Dojan, we're talking about an apathetic electorate that doesn't go out there and do the job. It's what it is. I mean, it's just what it is. You can laugh all you want, Dustin. You know it better than anybody.
I do.
I mean,
I
we're going to move the football, but at the end of the day, if people aren't willing to get out there and do it, it's not going to happen.
Then the issue is partially the process, right? The fact that you can't get people to go do it means that there's an issue systemic. Again, this gets down to the systemic level, which is we have a massive issue. I don't believe that there's anyone we can vote. Like Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. I mean, who are we supposed to go vote for that's going to go in and spend the kind of time reassuring us that they are focused on these issues. They believe in them in long form content, in short form content, in their own content. I just, for me, I don't know that there's any, like, I don't know how we vote this out. We have to make people more afraid of the people than they're afraid of whatever is pushing them to make these kinds of decisions. And that's a really challenging situation, especially because we're so cupped. I mean, no one here will even discuss the idea that maybe right, our Declaration of Independence says that, like, when your government stops working for you, right, the only solution that is given to us is to remove them and either start over or completely replace it. And yet we're so afraid of even talking or bringing that and mentioning it, mostly because of, like, the PSYOPs, J6, and all the bullshit that we've been put through, that we're even afraid to talk about it amongst ourselves. And I think part of us, like, we need to first come to the internal courage to say the words out loud. The First Amendment was written specifically for us to talk about these specific issues. And there is no path forward that does not involve pain and sacrifice. At the end of the day, we either, like, there will be people who suffer and there will be pain, and, right, you will come under attack again and again, like many of us have for a long time, in order to, like, advance it. But it starts with us having the courage to say the words out loud. And I can't tell you how many times in this space alone I've heard people self-censor having a discussion about maybe it really is time for us to take them all out simultaneously, not violently, but also not.
Yeah, I've heard numerous people on the stage say that if it needs to all burn down in order to fix this, then it needs to all burn down, including Chad and myself.
What does that mean? I mean, let's talk pragmatically, okay? Dustin,
Exactly.
Dustin, I want you to speak plainly. You say that we shouldn't self-censor. I want you to speak plainly. Are you suggesting violent overthrow of the government? And I'm not asking this. If you tell me you don't want to say that out loud because you're afraid that the FBI is listening to you, I understand that. But I'm just asking you, like, what is it exactly that you're saying?
I'm saying that maybe we need to continue to show up until we shut it down, right? Like, at some point, we have to take to the streets and demand wholesale change. But again, what I'm proposing here is that this is a system.
Isn't that what J6 did, though?
It's exactly what happened with J6, and we paid a terrible, terrible price for that. Lots of people paid a horrific, life-altering price and sacrifice for it. But if there's ever been an issue that, like, we need to show up and we need to continue to make noise and make things not work until, like, it comes to a head and some things change. What more usurpations do we have to suffer before we say, you know what, like, I would rather go in and the risk of the PSYOPs and the infiltrators and the agent provocateurs and everything else in order to start showing up and just continue to push and push and push. Because honestly, all of this talk like, oh, well, we're going to organize and we're going to, like, get a bunch of people to go vote. Until we start, it starts with talking, and then it starts with protesting in person, and then it starts with not accepting the abuses that come with those things. And no one's got a crystal ball, so I'm not saying that it definitely leads to violent revolution or whatever, but is anyone going to DC? Is anyone going to go protest outside of somebody's office? Or are we going to protest outside FBI offices? Or
Elon Musk, if you're listening and you want to help us fund an operation where people can afford to do that, I will gladly go protest against the Epstein files not being released, and I'm sure a lot of other Americans would.
And I would help organize it, right? And I would set all other political differences aside with anybody who wanted to fucking stand. I'm sorry for swearing. Anybody who wanted and had the courage to come stand with us, I would 100% come back and do it again and make the call and do all of the things that we do to have the best, right? Like all of the peaceful protests that we've done for, January 6th was the third of 3 DC rallies that were massive. I think we need to call people back out. I think this is a big enough deal. And I think that the message that would be sent to see a bunch of us Trump supporters and MAGA people showing up while Trump was president because we were so outraged, I think that would cause a stir and make noise that would be impactful in a way that just staying safe and talking about it in the comfort of our little bubbles online, it's not enough. It's just not enough.
And if anything, hopefully it would send a chill down the spine of some of these pedophiles on the client list that the people are freaking coming for you.
Let me go to Michael Tracy real quick. I would really like your opinion on this, Michael. Go ahead.
Hey, somebody just sent me the link and suggested that I speak.
Yeah, I sent an invitation to Ben's. He might be busy though. So.
Okay. So I would assume that this quote unquote take I'm about to give is going to be very different from what has been mostly said on this space. And just give me like a minute or two to expound, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So there became a point at which, from my perspective, the Epstein saga morphed into mythology more than something that was connected to reality. Now, am I defending Epstein? No, there is plenty of evidence that he was a dirtbag, that he procured young or underage or teenage girls for himself because of some weird fetish that he had, and most likely was guilty of a variety of criminal offenses stemming from that. However, the mythology stems from this assumption that's been so stridently believed for so long, especially on places like X and other online circles, that the Epstein saga must encompass a huge range of powerful people over whom Epstein had blackmail and had incriminating evidence of him engaging in illicit sexual behavior with children or underage people. And there's just not a whole lot of evidence backing that latter part of it up at this point.
There is, though,
let him finish.
That mythology really in large part stems from the original marquee accuser, Virginia Giuffre, who over 10 years ago now rattled off a huge list of prominent individuals to whom she claimed she had been trafficked. One of them was Alan Dershowitz. Now, leave aside one's feelings about Alan Dershowitz on any other issue. The fact is that between 2014 and 2022, Virginia Giuffre accused Alan Dershowitz of depraved criminal conduct, criminal sexual conduct, only to eventually admit in 2022 that she had falsely accused Dershowitz. This is the main accuser whose claims basically form the foundation for this entire ever-evolving mythology. Did you hear a lot of press coverage, really, to the fact that in 2022 the chief Epstein accuser had to admit that she was serially fabricating a false claim of sexual criminal conduct against a prominent individual? If you look for it, maybe you could see it. I commented on it, but it really did not seem to penetrate the consciousness much of people who are so invested in this story.
Was she involved with a lawsuit with Dershowitz over that?
Well, yeah, there were lawsuits and then counter lawsuits and defamation suits, and it eventually got settled. I mean, it's a very convoluted story, actually. Giuffre was represented by David Boyds, who's a hugely prominent, high-powered attorney. He was a long-running, like decades-old feud with Dershowitz, but it culminated in, like, the whole tangle of litigation culminated in 2022 in a settlement in which Dershowitz didn't even seek any monetary damages. All he sought was an acknowledgement by Giuffre that the accusation against him was groundless, and he received it. And so
the same Dershowitz.
So if and Giuffre,
the same Dershowitz
testified. Give me another 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, Fish.
As such, Giuffre, if you notice, if you follow the Ghislaine Maxwell criminal trial in 2021, she was not even called to testify by the prosecution because it was well understood that she had serious credibility problems.
Her statements were presented, her previous statements were presented as evidence.
She wasn't called to testify, and she was not one of the 4 victims against whom it was alleged that a sexual offense was committed. And Giuffre, unlike the 4 purported victims who were called to testify by the prosecution, Giuffre alleged widespread trafficking while those 4 did not. So the ones that the prosecutor actually had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt were credible enough to convict Maxwell did not even allege that they were trafficked to a third-party individual. So somebody beyond Epstein. And that's the core of this whole drama that we're in now, right? People think that there's this mass cover-up from the deep state or whatever of this extensive list of powerful individuals who have been caught engaging in this illicit conduct and now are going to have their crimes covered up in perpetuity. And I'll agree with any people who want to complain about members of the Trump administration and right-wing media, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, etc., teasing their audiences with this idea that some major revelation was going to be on the offing now that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino got in there to clear out the deep state and finally bring justice to all the children who were victimized or whatever. That's not really, from my perspective, them participating in a deep state cover-up. It's them just engaging in standard political charlatanism, because that's what Dan Bongino was, as like a Rumble or talk radio host who was just feeding red meat to his audience. But then once he actually has to filter his podcast ramblings into the higher evidentiary standards of the criminal justice system, then of course he abandons all this scintillating teasing that he had just got done. So I'm not claiming I have the final story on everything related to Epstein. I just think that a lot of this really is overblown. And if you don't even, just to conclude, like last sentence, if you don't even allow for the possibility that the depiction of this whole story has been exaggerated by political charlatans to get everybody excited and think that they were going to be combating the deep state by electing Trump again and getting, tenacious deep state opponents like Kash Patel and
I just want to correct something you said. In 2019, Dershowitz. In 2019, Dershowitz did seek monetary damages against Giuffre for defamation. So one thing that you said was incorrect, which was that she settled on the premise he wasn't seeking monetary damages in the lawsuit, and that she withdrew her statements without the threat of monetary loss. However, this is publicly available knowledge. In 2019, Dershowitz did file a defamation lawsuit seeking monetary damages against Giuffre. So that is some important context.
I should clarify just to say that the final settlement did not entail.
But there was a threat of massive. But there was a threat of massive monetary loss.
At the same time, if you had been accused for nearly a decade of engaging in illicit sexual predation against minors, and the accusation was false,
would you not be within your rights to potentially?
I'm not saying that he wasn't. I'm not saying that he wasn't. But
okay, I'll take that I'll take that clarification. It should have been more precise.
Yeah, because it adds to the weight of that she didn't just abandon her position willy-nilly without the threat of some kind of greater loss, as it was being suggested. So I just wanted to clarify. Good logic actually went to Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, so you can comment more to this than I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a New York attorney, and I attended that trial every day. So I want to have a little exchange with you back and forth about some of the positions you took. And I think that it's important for the purposes of intellectual integrity to vet out all possibilities so we can appreciate when we've been triggered to mass think a certain way and knee-jerk react that way, and then and then either eliminate that as a possibility or verify, like you seem to have, that is a likely scenario. So I appreciate just a few minutes to vet that thought out that you were just saying, that this is a fomented mass hysteria about a story which is red meat for MAGA, but that has less legs to it than we've been led to believe. And the reason
just to clarify, and I'll let you go, but I'm not saying that it's entirely mass hysteria. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein confessed to procuring young girls or teenage girls to gratify his sexual desires. So,
right.
I'm claiming that part is hysteria. It's the broader mythology that's been constructed around it.
The mythology that involves third parties, which is really the key element here.
Correct.
Whether or not that this entire scheme was designed to feed his individual tastes, or it had a much broader agenda of trying to feed the appetites of other people who might have similar perverted sexual tastes that he has, and then blackmail them, extort them, or ingratiate them himself with them one way or another. And the point that here are a few questions I have for you based on that take. So first, you start with an assumption that because Virginia Giuffre did not testify in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and you're correct. I actually brought that up early on in this space. She did not testify. And I think that there is a lot of reasons that she may not have testified, which have nothing to do with supporting the conclusion that you seem to draw.
You've never found incredible in any other court case. Just want to add that context. Go ahead.
Right, and so the point that I'm getting at is Maureen Comey, who was the head prosecutor for that case, specifically charged Ghislaine Maxwell for feeding Jeffrey Epstein's individual appetite. And once you frame the charges in that way, and you can make a case, and you would make the case, I would assume, that the reason she framed that is because that's what we have evidence of. We don't have evidence of the other stuff that he's trying to feed the appetite of multiple people, but that he was simply she was working to feed his individual tastes. And in that sense, once you frame the charges that way, there's no reason to bring Virginia Giuffre in there. I think you seem to be drawing a conclusion that Virginia Giuffre's withholding her from testifying is implying that there's some sort of shortcoming in her credibility. And my point back to that is no. Once you frame the charges a particular way, now you make Virginia Giuffre extraneous. And if anything, you can make an argument. The defense certainly would have made the case, because they were very skilled defense attorneys. They would have certainly made the case that that her testimony is going to be something that is a distraction from the ultimate charges, and is designed to paint him in a negative light with things that are unrelated to the underlying charges. So
can I respond to the Virginia Giuffre point, and then you can make your other points?
Yeah.
Okay, so I bring her up not solely in relation to the Maxwell trial of 2021. I brought her up primarily to posit what I would contend is her central role in fostering and creating this wider mythology, as I would call it, around Epstein.
See, the way that you phrase it as mythology, though.
In that she's the one who, over 10 years ago now, filed a lawsuit in which she accused a huge array of prominent individuals of sex trafficking, including Dershowitz, the claim she later specifically recanted. she did not even bring an individual lawsuit against other individuals that she had initially named, like former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell or Bill Richardson or other people whose names escape me now, who were associated with various powerful institutions. She brought litigation against Dershowitz, which she ended up having to recant pursuant to a settlement. She did bring litigation against Prince Andrew, who was in the middle of a enormous PR crisis after his infamous BBC interview, when he was obviously not a very, he didn't put on a very sympathetic or persuasive performance to most viewers. And then there's also her Ghislaine Maxwell litigation. I mean, you would think that her other accusations against a whole slew of powerful people to whom she claimed that she had been trafficked had been amply established by the factual record up to this point, given the knee-jerk reflex so many people have to assume that if the quote-unquote Epstein files are not being released as promised, that must mean that there's this huge universe of powerful people whose sexual depravities have been covered up by the Trump administration. And I just think that's not well founded.
The way that you frame it, hold on. I want to push back on something you said. The way that you frame it as mythology completely undermines the possibility if there is any factual basis to it or not, right? You're not leaving the door open for potential evidence when you're framing it as something that's completely fabricated from beginning to end because it's based in a history that's long lost to us, right?
That's
the way you're framing it.
Every last aspect of the Jeffrey Epstein story is literally fabricated, but things that have a core of truth to them can then take on mythological components over time as they get exaggerated and put into like a popular lore that's sort of divorced from.
So do you think that
record? That's what
do you think that Jeffrey had the resources to take on all of these individuals that she named in this so-called network in lawsuits, by herself?
Well, having David Boies as her lawyer is a pretty good resource, isn't it?
And she was successful in many regards, correct?
She succeeded against Prince Andrew.
Yeah. So Prince Andrew settled with her quite extensively.
Right.
So
£12 million.
So that actually shows right there were third parties involved, which counters what you were alleging earlier.
Right. There's the
one
third party that did settle was Prince Andrew.
So why would you settle if you were innocent?
If I were Prince Andrew's lawyer, I probably would have advised him to settle too. He has the royal family's
frequenting that particular the Manhattan, the New York residence numerous times. He admitted that himself on a different occasion. In the context of all of that, that would actually show that she was credible in her statement, especially when you couple it with all of the settlements, right? There's far more evidence. Hold on. There was two settlements. There was also a settlement with. There was numerous settlements from the estate as well as banking institutions on the condition that the parties who settled with did not come forward and identify themselves. You don't know that she wasn't one of them, right? We do know publicly there was one settlement, but there's also other settlements that occurred where the parties involved weren't named under a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, can we agree on that?
I'm talking about third-party individuals whom she claimed she was trafficked to.
Correlating evidence that supported her claim. Can we agree on that?
Can I
well, I mean, look, can I ask you, the fact that she, after 8 years, she finally conceded that she had falsely accused Dershowitz, one of the two people, the two third-party individuals she brought a lawsuit against, claiming she had been trafficked to him. Does that not cut against
Could it have been that she just didn't have?
Disregarded?
It couldn't have been that she just didn't have the evidence. Making a statement in settlement, retracting because she essentially lost the case.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you need
But that doesn't necessarily mean
accusations.
that it didn't happen, does it?
I can
Well, she admitted that she had falsely accused him for 8 years, so that's as close to an admission that didn't happen as you can get within the system.
kept talking shit. Like,
I thought that was what you clubhouse people like.
so I dropped him in the group. And with Philip, he went and explained it, then I let him come back up. Now, in the beginning, I said, Google what you're talking about at least before you come up here talking crazy. And when I dropped him, and then I brought him back up, and I brought up the cheeseburgers and eating a bar of candy every day.
So those are the 10 things we've discussed so far. Do you have any thoughts that you want to contribute or add to that?
No, I think as a broad outline, that's pretty good, Alan. I would just say one thing that you kind of brushed into was the institutions, and I think the problem that has occurred